Welcome to Redlaw's latest Managing Partner Spotlight interview. Today I'm really pleased to be talking to William Peake, who is Harneys' Global Managing Partner and a litigation partner by background. I hope you enjoy the interview. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your, I'm sure, really busy day to answer a few questions. Obviously, you've just done a little bit of an intro about where you are now, and you're obviously Global Managing Partner of Harneys. So first question I wanted you, obviously it's 3 years in, how did it even come about?
So nobody else wanted to do it. No, that's not entirely true. So I've always had ambitions of sitting in a senior management role, and my career had got to that point whereby I was really enjoying doing kind of heavy caseload work, but I was managing huge teams, and I started to find more enjoyment out of the management aspect than the actual straight law. And also when I joined Harneys, it's a firm that really does try to encourage people to play to their strengths. And my strength was management. My strength is communications. You can be the judge of that by the end of this interview. So they really let me do that. And I'm very, very grateful for them for doing it.
So is it always your sort of aim to head into management, or was that something just as you started to do it, you discover your...
Yeah, I think that I am on record as saying I'm not the greatest lawyer on the planet. I'm a solid 7 out of 10, I would say, 8 on a good day. And I find that I was getting less and less from it as a career. And, you know, we've tons of partners who are just so academically minded, so good at, black letter lawyering. And whilst I was okay at it, I found that my real strengths were communications. My real strengths were recognizing when people are struggling and helping them through that, and recognizing how to actually operate as a human being. Mm-hmm. Because I do think there's a paucity of humanity in law firms. And I think that if you can demonstrate that, and you have a willingness to work the hours that are required in senior management, then I think that's a really good combination.
So less of a light bulb moment, more of a, as you start to do it, you realise actually that's just where your strengths lie.
Yeah, and look, I've always enjoyed being, the centre of attention. I've always enjoyed that, taking on that responsibility to lead. And I played a lot of cricket when I was younger, and I always ended up being the captain of the team because I enjoyed the organisational elements of it. I've spoken a lot about this. I think the overlaps between cricket captaincy and real leadership in businesses, I think there's a really clear overlap between them. And Mike Brearley's book, The Art of Captaincy, really sketches that out in technicolor detail. So I've always kind of drifted towards that side of the business.
And was there a point when you just had to give up fear? Did you try and sort of bridge the gap?
So I was very concerned around, from a credibility perspective, that if I gave that up, that I would lose some sense of identity, or I would be a busted flush internally. But people could see the value in having somebody who is solely dedicated to that management side. Now, I still have quite an active client base who will phone me in the first instance, and they will want to engage me for my thoughts and for my strategic oversights. And again, I've got really good instincts on a case, and I've really good commercial judgment. So they will want to benefit from that. And again, it was transporting those instincts and those commercial judgments into a management sphere that I think makes you a compelling proposition. And I also think as a litigation lawyer, I was very good at making a compelling case for things that I wanted to occur. And I've definitely used that to my advantage, in that I know how to set out the evidence to recommend a course of action for people. Yeah. And I'm able to grapple with the topics as well.
So do you think you've got a particular management style?
Lofty and arrogant. I do. I suppose, look, it's pretty personable. I think that I over-communicate, and I recognize that conversations that people want to have with me are really important to them. So I never try to rush them. But it's quite an exhausting management style because it takes up a huge amount of my time. And I recognized what used to frustrate me when I was a junior lawyer and a junior partner was when dealing with senior people, they just wanted to rush me out of the room. They wanted to get it over and done with. And a lot of senior managers are just, they've got a to-do list. They'll just tick, 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 tick. And then they'll go home and they'll say, I've managed that. But it's much more ambulatory and it's much more vague in terms of what it is. And I drift people into position. I am not an autocrat and I'm not a dictator and I'm not going to tell people what to do, but I am going to recommend a course of action and ask them to think about that as a way forward.
And did you learn that from anybody? Did you have any sort of guidance going into sort of being a management partner?
No, so I think I developed my management style from doing the absolute opposite of people who I didn't enjoy being managed by.
Yeah.
And I used to loathe fake management, where people would say things like, oh, any issues, give me a shout. And you'd give them a shout and they'd be like, why are you phoning me? Yeah. So I felt I really wanted people to feel that the buck stopped with me as a partner. And I could see so many people doing it badly. I could see so many anxious, nervous, petrified associates going into partners and they had a problem. And you go in to speak to a partner to solve that problem or produce some solutions. You go in to hear, look, ultimately this will be on me. Ultimately the client's going to phone me. They're not going to phone you. It's fine. And when you would hear that, you breathe easy and you go, brilliant, we're in this together. And I would see so many examples of associates leaving partners' offices with more worries and more complexity to an issue that they already had. And that's unacceptable. The role of a senior manager is to make decisions. The role is to say, follow me. This is what I think is the best idea based on the collective and based on everything that I know, and I'm prepared to make a decision. Analysis paralysis of managers who just say, actually, can we just see one more report on this? Stop it. Just make some decisions and move it forward.
So it sounds like it's sort of quite, I guess, instinctive. You've moved into the role and then...
Instinctive is a fancy way of saying I'm making it up as I go along. But yeah, no, it is. It is very instinctive, and I trust my judgment. Yeah, I do. And look, you develop intuition. Intuition isn't something that you're born with. You develop it from being in rooms where decisions are made and things happen, and you develop it from seeing what goes right and what goes wrong. And it's so trite, and it's like an Instagram quote on balsa wood in a toilet that nobody ever goes to. Around, you learn more from your mistakes, but just because it's a cliche, it doesn't make it any less true.
I want to sort of move on to, you're really well known on LinkedIn. I think you've got
pollution is a good way to describe it.
LinkedIn King was somebody said to me, yeah, that's LinkedIn legal king.
What a rubbish title! You're the king of LinkedIn. Oh.
Legal, yeah.
Yeah, you're the king of LinkedIn. Legal. Legal may not be legal. Terms and conditions apply. See our website for details. Legal may include not being legal. It's a pretty rubbish title.
But you've obviously been able to give you a really big voice. You've got lots of people follow you, etc., which means it's great. I guess it's great exposure.
Yeah.
And it obviously gives great exposure as a leader, which I think one of the big things that sort of taking sort of poll of how you come across. You come across as very authentic, very human, and it's quite different from a typical managing partner. Was that a super conscious decision?
No, it's because I think everybody goes on a journey through a kind of chameleon-like jersey where you're trying to find, the jacket that fits you. Obviously, this isn't one of them, but you're trying to find, a guise or a personality that works for you. And I could detect that I was tripping myself up by trying to be something that I wasn't, be it the way I dressed, the way I talked, the way I presented myself, the car I drove, etc., etc. And I find it much easier to be myself. And I think that's where Harneys really came along at a very, very good time for me, because I trained and worked at in a really formal firm, an amazing firm, some of the best years of my life, and they took a very, very rough diamond and polished me up, and I'm so grateful for that. But it was a hierarchical firm. It was a firm whereby there wasn't a fluid relationship between partners and associates. It was very calcified, dividing lines. So when I came to Harneys, I had all of that formality, and I had all of that, those kind of tics that come from being marinated in that kind of background. So when I started to be a lot more myself at Harneys, I found that my career felt better and I felt more comfortable with where I was going. But again, all of that stuff just comes alongside your own maturity. That I was an extremely immature teenager. I was extremely immature in university, and not developed through. And I was always forever doing childish pranks and things as a junior lawyer. And I think that joke started to get old, and I started to recognize it. So I kind of had a lot of growing up to do.
And do you think now you've got a voice and you've found your way, I suppose? Is it been deliberately do you deliberately think about just do it, or do you just have your way of expressing yourself and you just go with those posts, or is it more sort of strategic than that?
Yeah, so I think there is a strategy underlying all this gibberish. So basically what I am trying to evidence is really, really straightforward. So if you come to a firm like Harneys, look at our website, it's made up of Magic Circle lawyers, it's made up of very, very smart people who went to very good universities, et cetera, et cetera. Well, but that's every law firm. Mm. Every law firm has that. Every law firm could present. There's a million William Peakes in law firms, right? They're all over. They're everywhere. But what I want to evidence is that we are a firm that on a Wednesday night in a boardroom where there's takeaway food everywhere, there's documents all over the place, people are losing their minds. And I have been in that room a million times. Yeah. The client wants you alongside them because they know you are a thoroughly good individual. They know you recognize what has to happen for their business to thrive, and they are prepared to work alongside you. And that in and of itself is what I'm trying to demonstrate with that public profile.
Whereas I think most managing partners would just repost the PR release at the end of it with the deal completed, or we've won the case, rather than we're in the trenches with you and this is what we do side by side with you.
Totally. And look, I've done a lot of things like this, and I've done a lot of interviews, and it was really interesting. I did one for the Sunday Business Post, which was like the Irish Financial Times, and the journalist Catherine Sands is fantastic. And she was like, do you want to bring your, so you basically, it's kind of like a lunch with the FT setup where you just go for lunch and you chat, and there's a dictaphone, and they take some incredibly flattering photos of you. And so I pitched up, and she was like, do you have a marketing people with you? Do you, and I was like, no. And she was like, typically, marketing will be there overseeing it, or there'll be a PR agency, or there'll be, and I was like, okay, that's a bit weird. Like, how do you present yourself? And I think that when I see firms putting out video content and stuff, and it's so scripted.
Yeah.
Where is the humanity? Because with the advent of AI, it's humanity that lets the humans win. So when I see firms putting out video content of, you see, I'm not going to do an impersonation. I don't know why I'm doing that with my glasses. But when you see a trainee reading from a script saying, I was very happy with my seat. It was amazing. The opportunities to work with our Hong Kong office were fantastic, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. You're like, really? That's what your traineeship was? Why don't you say things like, it was really great. I learned how to write properly because I worked with a great supervisor. The supervisor was really patient with me. The supervisor took their time, and I really look forward to going into work. Say that's a firm that people want to work for. It's not the firm that has
it's honest, isn't it?
Yeah, it's honesty. And honesty works, and honesty is compelling, and honesty is attractive. Honesty is something that people can recognize.
But I also think in law firms, there's always actually we need to be seen to be this, which is why I think with the managing partner sort of position, managing partners have often been, it's traditional, you do this is the tried and tested, which is I think why, again, you really stand out.
And look, I'm very conscious as well that, I'm just, a white man who went to a good university as well. So look, I tick an awful lot of boxes of managing partner material. But at the same time, I've been exposed to so many managing partners over my career who had no warmth and no sense of purpose. And the first managing partner that I worked for who had that impact on me, Andrew Doyle in Maple's Dublin office. And I met him recently and it was just amazing to see him. He's an absolute ball of energy. And he had a profound impact on my career because he communicated clearly with me and he told me what I needed to do and what I didn't need to do. Now, a slightly divisive character, I appreciate, but for me, he was the right thing for me. And I saw he actually really, really cared. He was actually prepared to say things as well. Like, that was amazing for me because everybody in senior management presents such a heavily caveated word salad, which just means absolutely nothing. So I am prepared to say things.
Or has limited involvement, maybe below a certain level.
No, totally. And look, I drive my EA Tracy round the bend because I will just talk to anyone, which means I'm always late for stuff. But at the same time, I find it much more fun to hang out in reception and talk to receptionists about what's going on and how's their family and what's their weekend looking like than perhaps sitting in a very heavy duty partners meeting talking about money.
But it's also sometimes some of those, but it's important to people, isn't it? And also you do find out a lot more, particularly in a job that is ultimately about people and managing people.
Yeah, like why do people do their job? They do their job to make money so that they can support their families, occasionally buy nice things, and have a decent life and hang out with their mates, right? That's what you do. And that's what really scares me about when I reflect on my work-life balance at the moment, that, you spend so much time with people who you possibly may not choose to spend time with them. I've chosen to spend time with you, by the way, just to be clear. But it's, so that really throws me and it really makes me think about, I really want to use my time properly. I don't want to dial it in. I've done that. I'm 47 now. I want to do something that energizes me and I feel like I'm making some sort of an impact. Now, look, it's not Bob Geldof levels of impact, but just some sort of impact where I'm improving some people's days a little bit better.
And I was just going to move on to sort of day to day, because obviously you're a global managing partner, so you've got to go across the offices. Is there any such thing as a normal week for you?
Not really. So I will respond to the needs of the business a lot. And if I feel that an office needs my attention, I'll just fly there and deal with it. But I do have structure in terms of, twice a year I'll want to spend time in our Hong Kong office. It's a major office. The managing partner, Paul Sefton, and I are very close. We got made up at the same time. And I really want to spend time there because it's just so significant to our business. BVI as well, I'll want to spend two times a year there. So I've got a loose sense of how much time I want to spend there. And I also realize that I am a really good impact sub. I'm good at coming off the bench and energizing people and then collapsing onto a plane and going home with some light crying. But I really enjoy that. And look, I'm like most CEOs or senior managers, I'm energized by hanging out with people and I'm energized by seeing people enthusiastic and enjoying their job.
So do you have a sort of home, this is the home base and actually...
Yes. So I live in London, but my family spend a lot of time in Ireland and in Northern Ireland. And so if I'm not in London, I'm with them, and I ask a huge amount from my wife to do that. But she seems to enjoy seeing not that much of me actually. But so we make it work, and but my time at home is very, very intense, and I'm really trying to work extremely hard on my boundaries because they are very conceptually smudged at the moment, and I could spend. And the thing about inboxes is you could spend all day clearing them out only for more rubbish to go in. Mm. So you got to appreciate that there's only so many hours in the day. But that is something I am really, really trying to work on.
So I was going to ask you about non-negotiables. Do you have just in terms of sort of routine. And
Oh,
actually how that looks,
I've got loads. I've got loads of really selfish ones for myself, actually. So I have to exercise 6 days a week, and my mental health takes a really harmful nosedive if I don't do that. So I'm really conscious. So I love running. I will attempt to do like circuit training things, go to random gyms, but I love running. So I do an awful lot of that. And I'm trying to eat much more healthily as well at the moment. And I'm trying to drink less alcohol, which is not as challenging as it used to be because I've now got a reputation for not being a boozer. Not that I ever was like some sort of like legal George Best, but I did.
The 20s and the 40s.
Yeah. It's quite the cliff fall after you turn 40. So but I'm really, really deliberate about that, and also I want to use up my drinking coupons with my mates. I don't want to waste them on clients.
Yeah.
Apart from all those clients that I really love.
Is there anything, do you stick to all of that when you travel as well?
I'm really disciplined about it. So as soon as I get off a plane, I'll go to a gym or run because my mum has me convinced I'm going to have deep vein thrombosis. So I have to, I'm just like, I won't, get in your run. So I'll be really diligent about that, drink tons of water on the plane and try to eat less meat. So I eat a lot of fish.
Okay.
And so my fridge is, for a married man, it is a bachelor's paradise of just smoked salmon and
champagne.
Yeah.
Non-alcoholic champagne.
Yeah. No Secco. So I am really disciplined about that because I just can't do it. I can't do it otherwise.
One thing I was going to ask you about, obviously you're going to all the offices, and I wanted to talk about sort of the values of Harneys, which are actually interesting. Are quite different. I did a sort of bit of research into the most common law firm sort of values are all commitment, excellence, integrity. There's a huge number that are just repeated, but actually Harneys are quite different.
Yeah, so look, I think that values, you can put down whatever words on the page you want, right? It doesn't matter if you are not breathing life into those adjectives with your words and deeds. And deeds are much more important than words when it comes to culture. And culture is all around, it's extremely hard to define, but it's very easy to identify a good one. And people need to recognize the impact of doing what they say they would do has a profoundly important resonance with people. And I think that you have to stand for things. You have to call out bad behavior. I think that has a huge impact on culture. And bullying in law firms is so prevalent and it's so hidden because the bullies are always the high earners. Yeah. They're always the high earners, and they feel enfranchised to act with reckless abandon to other people's feelings because they are pumping millions into the business. Senior management has to grasp the nettle there because the blast radius from a bully isn't just their team. It's so much broader than that because it's an acceptance of what the firm is prepared to tolerate.
And how do you ensure that is the same then? Because obviously you're global. You've got lots of offices.
Mr. Worldwide. So I'm really frequent communicator with the firm. I do like a weekly video for 5 minutes talking about everything that's on my desk. And I'm also really consistent because I go visit so many of the other offices, they know what I expect and they know what I stand for. And, I'll always do town halls when I turn up to offices. I'll answer any questions. I'll do discrete departmental meetings. I'll do partners meetings. It's just talking all the time. But it's also, it's little things like, not suggesting something that, is clearly the right way forward and then turning around doing the total opposite. And the piece around my social media is that I think the reason it resonates with people and the reason I haven't been caught out is that people can identify me in that social media. They recognize my voice in the words that are on the screen, and they see that that's what's important to me. And I think that's why it works and why it why people kind of get it as a thing.
But I think you're very human in a way that managing partners generally, they just haven't been very human. I said about so you're reposting the PR release, you're actually not getting behind to the person at all.
Yeah, I think marketing would like to repost the old thing from Harneys actually. But, I am, because look, again, horses for courses. We've so much good content around black letter lawyering. Our regulatory blog is amazing. Our litigation blog is superb, and every blog is superb. Just in case I've put anybody's nose out of joint there, but that's that we have people who can do that. What I'm trying to do is really show the human side of law firms. And I'm also really conscious as well that I want people to come into law. It's a great career. It's a fantastic career. There are so many opportunities. You learn so many transferable skills as a lawyer. And I want people to come into it. And I don't want them to be scared of it. I don't want them to see the person in the heavy chalk stripe suit. I was actually wearing a heavy chalk stripe suit yesterday, so that's why it's
but
actually,
a cool one.
Yeah, it was unbelievably cool, obviously. But I don't want them to see that kind of deterrent, and that it's for people like us and it's not for people like you. And that's why I love kind of Patrick McCann stuff around City Century and around solicitors' apprenticeships, because law firms are going to, like, what do law firms do? They are service providers.
Yeah.
They're service providers who provide advice, and that's what they're monetizing. And the advice that people are going to require in 5 years' time is going to look quite different to what they need right now. And again, with the advent of AI, the more humanity that you can get into law firms, I think the better the law firm's going to do.
Yeah. And in terms of that, law being a great career, it obviously you obviously did a few things before. Did you always know actually law was going to be it, or did you sort of
I did
want to try other things deliberately before you sort of committed?
No, I think I did, because I always could recognise that my father was a lawyer, and I could always recognise it was a good career. But I was really attracted to the communications aspect of it and the ability to teach you. I've always enjoyed writing, and to be writing and getting paid for it, that was very appealing to me. I just wish it was less boring what I was writing about, but that was very appealing to me, and I like the intellectual challenge of it. And I have stepped out of law before for a year, and what I missed was the spin on the ball. I missed that energy of hanging out with smart people and smart people making me smarter. I missed the intellectual jousting, the conversation, the quickness of lawyers, the funniness of lawyers, and I missed all of the camaraderie of working with finance, working with HR, working with all of the really important elements to make a law firm succeed. That's ultimately what dragged me back, and I needed some money.
Yeah. We've obviously talked about sort of how you came into it, and I guess finding your own voice. Have you taken, is there sort of anyone that you would say, well, actually, I've taken really good advice from this person?
Andrew Doyle was great, the guy I mentioned earlier, and but I don't have this long list of amazing mentors. I found my first boss at Harneys was fantastic, Phil Kite, because he could recognise that I was a bit of a loose cannon, and he could recognise that he's a little bit different. And I reckon if we harness this properly, Harneys could do the harnessing Harneys. He recognised if that was properly captured, let's go with that, that would be very good for the business as well as good for me. And he supported me all the way through. Every promotion that he said I would be due, I got. And again, taught me how open communications are the key.
And what do you think the best thing about being a managing partner is?
Just people being really obsequious to you. I actually wish they would be obsequious. That'd be great. I think it's the ability to influence change. Yeah. Now, I'm not able to do that by myself, and I do that as part of a collective with the executive committee, with the partners, etc. But people do listen to you. They absolutely do. And I'm surrounded by an amazing CFO, Mary Boldwood, an amazing Chief People Officer, Holly Harris, an amazing Chief of Staff, Gareth Russell. And those three have a really meaningful impact on my day. And we are able to change things for the better. So having that impact is definitely the best bit of the job.
And is there any sort of, again, sort of habit that you think that's really stood me in great stead? Or I guess on the flip side of that, any habit you think that's actually dropping that was a brilliant thing?
Yeah, so I was way too quick to judge. And I wrote off people way too quickly. And that was really, really unfair on them. And I have learned to take a step back, and I've learned to think about there could be an awful lot more going on in their life than this conversation with you, William. I've also become less judgmental around people, and that definitely stood me in good stead. And that don't rush things. I've really, really tried to slow down. And as a partner litigation lawyer, working on heavy duty, complex cross-border stuff, I always had an ability when the stress levels were really, really high and when everybody was losing their mind, I was always able to slow it down in my mind. And the first thing, and I still do this, that, my inbox is often, there's a lot of intruders of things that are very, very urgent, very important, except the first thing I'll do in that situation is usually go for a walk for 15 minutes just to clear my head. I try to slow things down because the world is not going to end in those 15 minutes.
And everyone's got 24 hours in a day, right?
Yeah,
That's
totally.
If you weren't doing this now, is there anything that you think you would do instead? You've obviously tried a few things in the past.
Yeah, they all failed. So I would, I'd probably say my mum's side, my mum was in fashion and ran a very successful fashion business. So I would probably work in fashion. I'm a part owner of Beggar's Run, which is a tailor's as well. So I'd work in that. I love sneakers. So what I would do is I'd probably set up a kind of like sneaker coffee shop that turns into a really insufferably hip cocktail bar that nobody ever goes to visit. And I'd play absolutely left field music. And I suspect that is going to be in my future.
You've thought about this in depth.
I have actually, yeah. So I suspect that's definitely my future. But just something that involves communications. But that cocktail bar is going to be super.
And the last question really is just sort of...
I'm not telling you the name of the cocktail.
Oh, yeah. The last question was really going to be about sort of Harneys and what the next sort of, what's next on strategy, what's next on the steps for Harneys. You're 3 years into Managing Partner. We've obviously got lots of big things like AI and legal tech, and the market's changing all the time.
Yeah, so I think for us, we're so lucky as a global business that we have so many offices that can flex at different times. And I think in a world of volatility, clients are moving towards stability, and boring is good. Right? So if you have jurisdictions which have a pedigree, which have infrastructure and an architecture around them, that's what clients want right now. They want that. Stability is the key. And so we feel like jurisdictions like Hong Kong, like Luxembourg, Jersey, Bermuda, they will really, really start to excel. But there are so many opportunities across the board in all of our offices. BVI and Cayman remain really, really busy. And I think that we have an expansive outlook as well. We are opening up in the Middle East. We've just opened up in Jersey. We're looking at other jurisdictions as well at the moment because growth is good and growth is exciting for the business. Nobody wants to work in a business that is stagnating. It's boring. You've no sense of direction. Everything's stale. So we are of that kind of growth mindset.
So what's next for you is more jet lag and
more jet lag, more Ryanair flights. But it's a really exciting time to be at the business, and I'm really, really enjoying it.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for.
Oh, thank you.